Hey, what's happening, everybody? It is Ask Jesse Answer time. Due to all the great feedback we had last week, it seems that we want to go with the longer Ask Jesse videos, which is fine. I like to talk, so I just want to make sure that I'm giving you all value and you're not tuning me out after 2 minutes and 13 seconds. So, with that being said, let's jump right into it. Question number one, what I mean by the longer ones too, is that we'll answer all the questions as they come, which I like. I like answering them all. Question number one comes to us from Rachel Waldrop, and Rachel asks, "What is your most memorable experience?" It really depends on from moment to moment, depending on what emotional state I'm in, depending on the people I've talked to as of lately, all those types of things. As of right now, the thing that's popping to mind is I'm thinking about a time when I was in Australia with some friends and we were watching the sunset there, and it was just a spectacular time, and it was one of those magical moments where there was a buzz, there was an energy around, and everybody felt it, and it was one of those. I hate to say the phrase "perfect moments," but for lack of a better phrase, perfect moments. Question number two comes to us from Deborah Smothers Rippy, and Deborah asks, "I think it is sad how people treat other people these days based on what we look like. If you ain't pretty and beautiful, they don't have time for you. My friend, I don't want to mention his name, he calls me his friend, and when he sees me always says, 'My Deborah's here.' But when I message him, he won't respond back to me, and it hurts my feelings when he says we are friends, but doesn't talk to me wait, hang on, I'm sorry, let me reread that. He doesn't talk like we are only when I see them." Okay, so what I'm getting from that is you have a friend, he says you're friends, he calls you "My Deborah," but when you want him to respond, he doesn't respond to a message. So here's what I would suggest with that. One, ask him what he feels is a reasonable amount of time to respond back to a text message or a message or whatever that is. Everybody's going to have different rules and regulations for responding. And in this day and age of we think we're going to be instant response all the time, sometimes if somebody doesn't respond like that, we begin to make up stories about them in our head. I personally, a couple of years, I decided, I'm spending way too much time on my phone. I decided to turn my phone off. I keep it on silent all the time. I check it maybe a couple times a day, with the exception if I'm anticipating. And there's times where I'll go days before I respond to a text message. Most of my friends who I communicate with regularly, they understand that, and they know that if they really need to get a hold of me, that there's ways to do that. And I like that because it gives me some control. So people who think that I might be responding right away, they don't always get that from me. So I'd be really clear with him what his response time is, what you expect of him. You maybe ask him why he doesn't because I'm not sure. There's a lot going on here, and I'm assuming what you're doing is you're implying that he's treating you a certain way in person than he is behind your back, and that may not be the case. You may be making up something that's not there. So before you jump to conclusions, what I would say is really get clear on what the communication is with him. What your standard is, what his standard is, and then see if you guys are amicable with that. And if you're not, you might want to rework the friendship, reevaluate the friendship. If it's something that he's not going to be responding in the timely manner that you like, find a friend who will, because there are people who are out there and they will be instant response with their phones. I know that I have some friends that if I message them, they'll be back to me within 2 minutes. And those are the friends that if I need something last minute, I'm going to reach out to them. And it does. It really behooves us to get clear with that in communication guidelines with our friends. Question number 3 comes to us from Faith Lines, and Faith asks, "I have a couple questions to ask, so I couldn't decide which one to ask, so I'm asking for both." Okay, anybody who's going to ask multiple questions in the same sentence, if you have multiple questions during a week, what I would prefer in the future is either A, to break them up into different sections. It's easier for me to read, and that way I'm not jumping trains of thought. Or 2, spread them out from week to week to week. That way it gives everybody a chance to ask. And I didn't clarify that before, so I apologize. And I'm going to answer them both right now, and then we'll work on that for the future weeks. And Faith asks, "How would you spend your time if you did not need to work, and what's most meaningful to you?" I think that's 2 questions in one. Faith was sneaky here. She stuck some extra questions in. Honestly, I love my work so much that I hope that I am lucky enough, I'm privileged enough, I have the opportunity to work until the day I die. I really do. And if I'm not working, some of the things I enjoy more than anything is exercising and being outside in nature and taking photos of nature. I love doing that. Imagine that 3 years from today, you're looking back over those 3 years. What has to happen? What has to have happened both personally and spiritually for you to feel happy about the time that's passed? I don't think necessarily anything specific has to happen, meaning that if this one thing doesn't happen, then it's a lost 3 years. For me, it's really honoring, I think, a standard I've set for myself. It's following through. It's really living to my potential and doing the best I can to be a better version of myself than I was the day before. Those are really crucial ones for me. And I think if I get to 3 years from now and I'm doing those things, I'll be pretty stoked about it. Next question comes to us from Jen Couch, and Jen asks, if you lived aboard the International Space Station try to say that 5 times fast, space station, 5 times fast. That's not the question. That was my question asking voice. If you lived aboard the International Space Station, see, I don't do the edits of this. I just do it on the cuff, whatever comes out. So you guys get the canned version, so to speak. For 1 year, what would you miss the most, and what would you enjoy the most? What would I miss the most? I would miss, the people who I love and care about, and being able to see them and interact with them and be around them. What would I enjoy the most? Oh, without a doubt, the photo opportunities. Definitely the photo opportunities. I think I would spend days on end just taking pictures. When you have and Jen asks again, when you have a super crappy season in your life, but things seem to be changing and leveling out positively, what would you use for self-talk when you catch yourself holding your breath or waiting for history to repeat itself? Like a mantra or a personal lift me up. Maybe you could provide a 2016 saying for us all to do. Mine would be pretty much, make sure you breathe or you're going to die. That would probably be a big one for me. If I'm holding my breath, I'd say make sure you breathe or you're going to die. Or you're going to pass out. And if you pass out and hit your head, then you're really screwed. And no matter how bad things are, I would always remind myself, make sure you breathe. And actually, I think that's a great one. Make sure you breathe or you're going to die. It's kind of extreme, and there might be enough humor in it where it shakes things up. The other thing is, waiting for history to repeat itself. I would not get into that dialogue with myself. I've gone there in the past, and it doesn't serve me. It doesn't help. It's not going to make anything better. Because, where's the incentive with it, right? If I were to tell you, hey, just keep walking down this street, and you're eventually going to get hit by a car, how motivated are you going to be to keep walking down the street? Not very motivated at all. If I were to tell you, keep showing up to work, and you're going to get yelled at every time you show up, how excited are you going to be to show up for work? When we're conditioning ourselves to expect history to repeat itself, especially if we're anticipating the history to repeat itself, which I'm assuming here is a bad thing, I would really look at switching my dialogue around on it. And if I'm going to be a historian, I would look to the times in history where there was way, way, way more things that went right than there went wrong. I'm willing to bet that if you became a student of your life and looked into the past, you'd probably see that the things that went wrong, there's probably a handful of them. And compared to the things that went right, which you probably couldn't even hold in two hands, you'd probably need a whole room to fill up with all the things that went right. The things that went right dwarf the things that went wrong. So if you're going to use the phrase, wait for history to repeat itself, make sure you're putting it in a context that leaves you empowered and not cowering. Empower, not cower. Oh, I like that. Leaves you empowered. Make sure it empowers you, not cowers you. Empower, not cower. Well, you guys get what I mean. All right, that's all the questions it looks like for this week. Thank you so much, everyone, for asking. Rachel, Deborah, Faith, and Jen. Awesome, fantastic questions. I hope you all found value in them, and please leave a comment below. I love reading your feedback on it. I love when the conversations start with it. Do you agree with all I said? Do you disagree with any of it? Leave it all below. And if you found value in this and you enjoyed it and you have somebody you want to share it to, please pass it on to them. We'll be back here. I always put the post up around 8 to 9 a.m. Pacific time on Fridays. I'll be taking questions until, I think, Sunday mornings or so, and then I'll have the videos up around this time. All right? We'll see you next week. Have an amazing week. Make it a memorable one. Take care. Bye bye.